we take off. And the 2K, 4K, and 8K resolution 3D displays built with variety of technologies, LCDs, OLEDs, MEMS, laser projections, absolutely that's happening. It will remain in high end, but yes, it will happen. And then practical holo video volumetric displays will be at a premium. And proof points for human-sized volumetric displays and immersive holodecks will be basically in the R&D at that time. So that's kind of my personal view on what I could come up with, but and it is absolutely subject to, and I'm sure some of these things will fail. Okay. So what I did was, this is my last slide. So basically what I did was I basically replotted the entire thing, assuming that as if I was trying to create a roadmap for 2020 for the industry or for our company or whosoever. And I tried to replot what I think will be feasible. And so first of all, you know that Henry Ford quote, right? If I ask people what they wanted, they'll say faster horses. So that's exactly how typically all of us, including me, we think. That we just think, okay, whatever happened last year will happen next year better and better and better. Power performance will increase, cost will decrease, and therefore things will happen, right? But I don't believe that, I kind of try to take a little, little irrational view also on this. So what I'm saying is that color and anaglyph will completely die, almost, basically. And the passive polarized and active retarder will also pretty much die. And this is a very, very controversial statement I'm making here. And the way I look at it, majority of the technologies will be only in the multi-view, auto stereo, eye tracking, and handheld auto stereo. They will survive, and they will basically really become good and reasonably priced. But I think active shutter will continue to grow because this is a technology that is a natural scaling of transistors. And if the fragmentation issue can be solved, the problem is solved. So basically with all this, so my thinking is that so those who want to be in the premium space should be looking at holo video and volumetric. Those who want to be in the mainstream, they should be looking at making the multi-view and auto stereo with the eye tracking as a kind of more feasible technology in the market. With that, I think I'm open for questions.
So before we do the Q&A, we just want to extend a certificate to. Yeah, we have about 5-10 at the most. One thing before you ask a question: if you have not checked in, please do so. That's very important to us to know that you are here. And go ahead and ask away.
Yeah, please. Sure. This one? Yes, sir.
2D to 3D conversion. A lot of legacy is also being talked about. What are the limitations? What are the limitations? Can I just from the market perspective? Because I'm in that part.
Yeah, so I think that's a very good question, and I intentionally did not touch it in the entire presentation, despite of a lot of feedback. I personally do not believe in 2D to 3D conversion, and that's why I never wanted to go into that. So with all due respect to, even though I in my business I support 2D to 3D, but I personally do not believe in that, and I today wanted to take that opportunity to say that. And the reason is very simple, because unless and until you have generated the content with a view that you really want to deliver 3D, it's very, very difficult to, unless there's a mathematical genius who comes up and who basically develops an algorithm who can extract everything, that's yes, absolutely. So I've yet to see that algorithm basically. Yeah. Please.
Why is it so difficult to make content? It seems like if you're filming, all you need is 2 cameras instead of 1.
So I think that's a very good point, but the reality is that lot of movie making is still kind of in the primitive stages of 3D making. So what is happening is that just to make a 2D movie, it is a very difficult process. Now you're trying to generate 2 streams, and then you're trying to see so that the accommodation vergence doesn't really hurt people. So at every frame, at every frame by frame, you have to make sure that the accommodation vergence is not hurting people. It's pleasing to them. So that's the fundamental, I think, problem with that.
Well, why would it hurt anybody if you put only the left eye and that's what you put on the screen?
No, so that's exactly why, like, so these days, like, but the synchronization of those two frames is a very big problem. So yes, like, if you were doing two raw images and you were able to somehow do a timing sync between the two cameras, absolutely that is possible. And that's what I think RED cameras, for example, do in the market. Let me take one from the other side, like, so yeah, please go ahead.
There are precedents that say that new technology that is similar to old technology comes in only when it has a killer application that's not well served by the previous technology. Can you identify such a compelling application? The absence of it is striking in your discussion.
So I think that's a great question, actually. So the reason I mentioned the browser and OS here is because of that exact reason. What is happening is that, like, for example, just to give you an example, like, I gave you the entire PowerPoint. John was showing, like, data from the Twitter and so on, right? Imagine if this entire tool was available to you where I could actually demonstrate the data in 3D and kind of, like, create some interactive work with it. The kind of visualization that is possible at that stage is, we cannot think today because we have not seen it. So the only things we have seen is Minority Report or, like, Avatar movie or, like, some Star Trek or, like, so it is only the movie concepts we have seen. What we have not seen is that how much productivity can increase. Like, for example, my son is, like, doing a medicine, and, like, so we are talking, and, like, there's an endoscope. So if in the endoscope I had 2 cameras instead of 1, the accuracy of surgery can improve so much. But that, like, application is so limited, and it is so limited to such a small niche market that you cannot talk of it as a kind of mass application. For mass application, you will have to go to a browser and OS level where the data visualization can be in 3D. And then, of course, movies and content and kind of the content people watch. So sports is a great example. Like, if you could do sports, I think, like, if you watch sports in 3D once, you never try to go back to 2D. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So, in your future vision, do you see actually that people are going to be such that they won't be using any type of eyeglasses at all?
No, so I'm saying the other way. I'm saying that at least in my vision, a lot of technologies will be without glasses, but the real low-cost mainstream thing will be actually active shutter glasses. And the active shutter glasses, in my mind, will come to $5 cost, and pretty much it will be like a mouse. So just like you use mouse, or in future you'll be using Air mouse, same way you'll be having the glasses, and that's it.
You don't see that as an impediment to the business?
Absolutely not. In fact, I see that as a great opportunity because the displays are all going to become 120 Hertz regardless, just by transistor scaling. So right now we are talking about 120 Hertz display as a premium, but it won't be a premium anymore within a year or so. So basically, if the display is there, what else you need? All you need is glasses, and if the glasses cost can come down and they can be interoperable like a mouse or a keyboard, or, like, any of your other PC devices, so it will be pretty much a solved problem. So that's exactly why, like, I personally believe that that is the case. But yes, like, rest of the industry does believe that, and I agree with them that glasses-less technology will also be there.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
Personnel is not all yet. If you have some questions, you all
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Welcome.
Slide will be available.